Welcome back to A Little Faith. I am pleased today to be joined a fellow Canadian from Newfoundland, Stephanie Keating. Stephanie, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Well, I am pleased that you are joining me today on this podcast episode. Stephanie and I are going to dig into her story and what had happened with, going back 5 years ago during COVID and some difficulty that she had with a lot of Christadelphians, I think, could relate to this about the idea that how is God not answering our prayers? At least not on the timeline that we believe that God should be answering our times. And it's a great question that I don't know if we will ever truly know the answer to. It is something that I think many believers across many different faiths struggle with for sure. And so I'm pleased to be joined with her and talk about some of these struggles that she's had that could be relatable to many people. So again, thank you for coming on today and joining your story. So why don't you kind of
Thank you.
introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you came to Cambodia to do your mission work, and then kind of what brought you back to Canada as well.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, for trusting me with this topic. Yeah. So I'm Stephanie. I'm from Newfoundland, Canada. I'm married to a Cambodian brother, Pisay Him, who actually is fairly well known in the community of people that have spent time over in Cambodia. And I'm a mother of two boys. I just had my second about 4 months ago. Um, yeah, so I went to Cambodia in 2017, and I stayed there for 3 years. The reason I went was to teach English and the Bible at the Bible Education Center in Phnom Penh. And the WCF tie in there is I was sponsored by WCF to go. Otherwise, I could not have gone at all. Um, Cambodia was put on the map by some people on Facebook, some brothers and sisters who were already over there teaching. And I was struggling at home, some mental health issues, some sense of lacking fulfillment in my life. And I knew from past experiences being on Truth Corps that that's when I felt the most fulfilled, was doing things like this. Um, so I kind of in a moment of desperation, perhaps, but also clarity of knowing I needed something to change and that I probably just needed a change of scenery. I put out a Facebook post saying, "Where should I go?" And I got like Jamaica, I got South America, I got Cambodia, Africa, and Cambodia was like the last place I wanted to go. I'm like, not really. Like, that's so different from anything I know. It's the opposite side of the world. I don't know the language. I don't know if I really like Asian culture. Like, I was quite like very hesitant and a little bit judgy. um, and I was thinking, because I had done some Spanish in university and I had spent some time in South and Central America, that I thought, oh, I should go back there. I've already put not roots, but like I've put my feet on that ground before. I know some people over there. Maybe I should go that way. But it became very clear Cambodia just kept coming up, coming up, coming up. And I kept putting things in God's face saying, like, well, no, actually, that doesn't work because this. And then very quickly after, it got cleared away. And God's like, well, what now? And so I put another thing in front of him, and he kept clearing all the things out of the way. So, a little bit kicking and screaming, I went to Cambodia because it was just so clear that it wasn't because I wanted to go. Like, it was super important to me that I was going because God wanted me to go. And it was very clear from everything that he was putting in front of me and removing from, like, as a barrier, that Cambodia was the place that I needed to go. Um, and so I went and then I stayed and my life was changed like forever. Um, but yeah, that's kind of a nutshell of
And to put in a little more context as well, in terms of, I mean, you can go into a little deeper, but I know, like, as a fellow Canadian, Newfoundland
mm,
is quite a remote
It
part of
is. Yeah.
Canada, and there are
Yeah.
not many Christadelphians that live in
Hmm.
Newfoundland as well. So I think that you mentioned that was part of one of the big reasons that you wanted to actually go and travel and be part of a larger community and feel a little bit more supported as well. But why don't
Hmm.
we dig into the reason for coming home as well?
Mm.
Part of this whole story as well of what we want to dig into today.
Sure. Yeah. So I met Pise in 2017, but not as soon as I got there. He was already a baptized brother involved with the BC, the Bible Education Center. Um, like he just that was his home really, and he was such a huge part of BC and people's experiences who had come from overseas to teach at the BC. Um, but when I went, he hadn't been around for a while because of some dramas, and I didn't know him, but I heard of him, and people kept telling me like that Pise, like you stay away from him. I'm like that's fine, like I'm not here for that. Um, and so I went to Cambodia in August 2017. I did not meet Pise until 2000, or sorry, September 2017. And the first thing I heard of Pise was his laugh, like it was just ricocheting up the staircase with this roarish laugh coming up. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is that? And then he comes up onto the rooftop where we all are, and I had already made up my mind. Like as soon as I laid on eyes on him, I'm like, nope, not for me. We're not going there. That's fine. All this like drama people were trying to put around um, us. I was like, yeah, there's nothing to worry about there. Um, and then we just like because I was spending time with field workers who were friends with Pise, um, I started spending time with Pise, and those field workers left, and then Pise and I had that friendship there. And Pise was just so good at helping me live in Cambodia and to do better at being a field worker, to be culturally sensitive, to like stop and listen to people more, and understand before I was like bulldozing over people with the way I did things, because I think that's something that happens a lot. Um, but anyway, over that time, so like 2 years, I guess, a little over 2 years of friendship, uh, it developed into something more. It became needing each other because things got really hard in Cambodia. And I won't dive into that because that involves a lot of people, but it was really, really tough. And it felt like God put us in each other's lives to hold each other up. And the idea of not having each other got a little bit impossible to think like if we just went our separate ways, how much that would impact us. So anyway, it was a bit of a tricky thing too because I didn't want to dive into a relationship with a local and then be like, well, actually, I don't want to stay in Cambodia anymore and just break up and leave, and that's messy. So speaking of answered prayers, I prayed to God to like make it really obvious if that was meant to be something. I was happy enough being single that I didn't need it to happen, if that makes sense. Um, I loved the work that I was doing in Cambodia. Um, so I didn't like want to wreck it by like a bad relationship. But a week after I prayed to God, just like left it entirely in his hands, Pise asked me to be his girlfriend, kind of like out of the blue. Like it shocked me because I didn't think Pise was on the same. Like I didn't think he was even thinking that way. um, so that was the start. We started dating actually today. Today's February 12th, 2026. 7 years ago today, we started dating. Um, and then we got engaged in August, the following August. So yeah, August 2019. And we had our wedding ceremony in January 2020. It was not a legal marriage, unfortunately, because there's rules around Cambodian foreign
Mm-hmm.
marriages, and people who'd been before us told us it's not possible or it's not worth it or whatever. Just get married outside of the country.
Hmm.
And so that's what we did. We had our ceremony, and then like the next month, we were planning to go to Thailand and get the paperwork
Hmm.
done. Little did we know we couldn't do it in Thailand anyway, but little did we know COVID
Hmm.
was lurking about the corner. So yeah, we got married. They had our ceremony early January, and within a couple of weeks, COVID was already like, especially in Asia.
Hmm.
Um, so things just like border slammed shut. We were like, oh goodness, like we didn't have work. Like I had left a position to actually further my education to get a better job. Fisay had left his position to like explore other things, and it's just like everything just screeched to a halt. And then suddenly we couldn't afford to pay our rent. So we were facing homelessness. At the same time, I found out I was pregnant. So here we are sitting in our apartment that we had just, it was our second month of renting it, our second month of, well, third month of marriage, I suppose. Just kind of looking at each other like, now what do we do? Because we can't afford to pay our rent. Neither of us have any income right now. I'm pregnant. I'm like on the other side of the world from everything I know. We have to pay for healthcare in Cambodia. It's not free like Canada. And COVID, like no one knew at that point what COVID was going to be like.
Hmm.
It was just this really, really scary virus that was in China and starting to come over here. Um, so yeah, it was PCA's decision.
Oh, wow.
He's like, you got to go home. And I was like, no, no, I can do this. This is my home now. You're my home. Like, this is your baby too. Like, I can't just up and leave you. And we just got married. Like, come on. But he was adamant that I'd come home, and I agreed just because it wasn't worth like agonizing him over either. Because I understood, like, as a husband, as a father, the pain of not being able to protect and provide in that moment, like that's scary stuff from his perspective too. So yeah, I was 5 months pregnant when I came home, July 2020, and before I came home, we applied for a work permit for him to come, and I said to God, like the only way I can leave is knowing that when I applied for this, that this is in your hands. Like this is you. You have the power to overcome literally anything. Sorry. I didn't think I would cry telling this again. I told the story so many times, and then I packed it up in a box and put it away.
No, it's okay.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I really trusted God in that moment because I just spent 3 years talking about God and who He is to people who didn't know Him, and trying to convince people like how awesome He is and how powerful His love is, and that when you join His family, you're under like the most protective wings that you could ever be under, and that when you pray, He hears you, and He like His love is for you. It's transformational. Like, get baptized. Like, this is the God. This is the family you want to be part of. So when I left Cambodia, I thought back over those 3 years of trusting, or what I thought I had trust, I had faith in God. Like, how else could I talk about Him and teach about Him? Um, so I laid it in God's hands, and like, okay, this is the only way I can go home, is knowing that you're taking care of this. I've done the work I need to do. I've done the paperwork. Now that's in your hands. A month after I got home, it was refused, and no real reason. So it was hard to know how to like move forward. And I was just so angry, honestly, and just devastated. Like I just felt such a deep level of betrayal because it's like, God, I said like this is in your hands. You have the power, but you've just either you didn't care or you're just saying no because for whatever reason. And I don't know what that reason is, but it doesn't feel like a good enough reason. Um,
I think this is one of the
yeah.
big struggles that so many of us have, is that you feel like God almost like owes us one, because
Yes.
we do the things that we believe are acceptable. In your case, you're giving up your entire life to serve Him in a foreign country. You're like, God, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing all the right things. And it's true that like God can move mountains, He can do these miracles,
Mm-hmm.
and we're taught and we're instructed that all we have to do is pray to God, and our
Mm-hmm.
prayers will be answered. And those things are not
Mm-hmm.
false; they are true, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when it comes back and those prayers are not answered, you question, someone gets cancer, why did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Or someone gets
Yeah.
cancer and they're healed, and then someone else doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if we will. That's a struggle I think that every single human being has in their life when they do go through struggles. And I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and I said this earlier, that I don't know if we'll know the answers to these things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, I mean, I'm kind of skipping ahead. We don't know, our prayers are answered, but they're not answered on our timeline. They're answered on God's timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your struggle that you have is not unique, in that
Mm-hmm.
many people go through these struggles in life and they're not sure, why is God not listening to me? Is He not hearing my prayers? And yes, He
Mm-hmm.
is, but sometimes it just takes time, and we don't know
Yeah.
why it takes time. Like maybe God
Yeah.
did answer your prayer, and that visa came through within those first 3 months. It could have
Mm-hmm.
happened. Who knows? And you
Yeah.
don't even know why it was declined. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but if this was to happen to someone else, maybe it did. And there's
Mm-hmm.
that person has no or less faith than you do. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not in our hands. I think that is the
Mm-hmm.
struggle sometimes that any believer has for a situation like this.
Yeah, for sure. I always think of the verse about like if you have faith like as small as a
Mhm.
grain of mustard, like you can move a mountain. So like it's like okay, my like the name of this podcast, right? A little faith, like that mustard seed grain of faith that's barely
Right.
detectable. At that point, I was like holding on to that so hard because I'm like, yeah, I didn't. I kind of felt like my faith got crushed a little bit. But if I were to say like in a nutshell why everything why
Mhm.
it's to show me just how little my faith really was because as soon as I was faced devastation or disappointment um
Mhm.
I crumbled so hard so fast and I responded with anger and that's like so pretentious isn't it in the face of
Yeah.
God to say how dare you like come on who am I to say that to God? But that was my initial response was like, God, come on, you owe me.
Mhm.
But also like not really realizing that's the attitude I had. Because you're right, like I spent 3 years teaching about God. I definitely deep down had this sense of like, well, we're on the same side now, so like nothing's gonna beat me now because I'm on God's side. But like how that's so silly, so human. And I'm grateful that I had such a severe like slap in the face in a way, like a reality check of who I actually am.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but yeah, the whole like that wasn't the end either.
Right.
Like it was refused, and then so I had to have. We named our son Elisha. There's a story behind that name, very pertinent to this conversation. Um, but I had him alone. Um, yeah, that was super hard because I wasn't, I didn't get married and get pregnant to be a single mom, but here I was.
Right.
Um, yeah, that was a whole mix of emotions as well. But we did apply again for a visa application. It was refused again. We at this point had gotten lawyers involved, and basically everyone was telling us it wasn't going to work. It's not going to work. But we just had to keep trying because if we gave up, then like when were we going to be together? You know. Um, So yeah, we kept fighting for it, and eventually, on the fourth try, so this I didn't mention, but he did apply for a visa back when we were dating,
Hmm.
and that was refused as well.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't until our fourth attempt that he was finally allowed to come in on a visitor visa. Um, so at this point, we had been separated for nearly 2 years, and our son was nearly a year and a half. He was 17 months old before Pisa got to hold his son for
Wow.
the first time. So it that's a pain that's like really hard to reconcile because it's not a pain that really heals the loss of time with somebody,
Right.
especially your child. You can't rewind to fix that.
Right.
That's not
It
something that just heals over
right.
and you move on.
It's different like that. If you and him are separated for nearly 2 years,
Yeah,
you could potentially mend that relationship, or you can still
yeah,
talk online
yeah.
and text and email and those kind of things. But the
Mhm,
relationship between a husband and their children, and obviously,
mhm,
if you're older, you can communicate, but a baby is obviously not communicating except anything except for physical contact between the
mhm.
two. And I know that as a
Yeah,
parent as well, that the relationship between a mother and a child after birth is much different than a father, because the mother obviously has had that bonding experience going through pregnancy,
mhm,
whereas a
mhm,
male really doesn't relate as much as being a father until the baby is actually born. And so to really miss out on that, and I know you mentioned that like you lose out on that time, but you also just lose out on that opportunity that the bonding,
mhm,
suddenly you're almost two, and now you're, without any fault of the baby as well, uh,
mhm,
you're now you're now meeting your father for the first time.
mhm. Yeah, like we would do video calls all the time. I'm grateful we had that because
Right. Yeah.
even 10 years ago we wouldn't have.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so he knew his dad through that, but he was still like a stranger that he was just side eyeing, and he was so excited to pick him up and meet him. But he's like, whoa, 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 whoa,
For you.
breaks, dude. Like, who are you? And like the intimacy of like me and Pisa trying to be a husband and wife and relationship and communicating with each other on a so like his first language is not English, his culture is not Canadian, mine's not Cambodian. He said he like moved across the world to be here and is just like a bit shell shocked, I think. And then he's suddenly like really a dad, and he's got to figure out how to be a dad in Canada, which is a completely different experience than being a dad in Cambodia, and like how to, yeah, with no like soft launch at all. It's just like boom, here you go. Here's a year and a half old child who kind of doesn't like you because you're a stranger, but you shouldn't be a stranger because you're his
Mhm.
dad. And yeah, having our second, like near, well, 4 months ago today, actually, um, that was just, I think it was the day after he was born. And I just fell to pieces in the hospital because I was just like, this is what we should have had
Right. The
with
first.
our first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing Pisa hold this little baby that should have been Elisha.
Mhm.
And yeah, he just completely has missed all of that. but it's been so beautiful watching him
to,
with our second, who we almost didn't have, but
to do it again now.
yeah, it was kind of like redeeming in a way, but also just opening up that wound of why God, why did he have to lose out on that with Elisha? But yeah.
During that time and even now, what are some of the like the scripture verses that you could kind of have some? I know there were some obviously struggles during that
Mm-hmm.
time, but what do you think was the most encouraging verses and scripture that you could go to say, um, to hold on to that hope, or maybe now
Mm-hmm.
that says that are relatable to you now?
So I guess that ties into why we named our son
Hmm.
Elisha. Um, it's a story in Second Kings 6. Um, it's about Elisha standing on the wall of the city when they're under siege with his servant, and his servant's like, "How on earth are we getting out of this?" And Elisha's like, "Don't worry." He says, "Don't be afraid. For those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And then Elisha prays and he says, "Oh Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And it was just like leaving Cambodia. That was the message that I carried literally within me. We named Elisha before I left Cambodia because, and then like once I had that name, we had that name picked out. I was just like, I need this to be his name because that's the message I need to remember through all of this, no matter what, is that the God who is with us is more than whatever the thing is that we fear that's surrounding us that feels so absolutely overwhelming that we ourselves actually don't have
Hmm.
the power or ability to conquer, and that we are entirely dependent on
Hmm.
God. So Elisha actually means God of my salvation, but also the story is just so, to me, incredibly powerful to remind myself when I left Cambodia, to remind myself when visas were refused, and even today to remind myself. And now I get to pass that message on to my son and say, no matter what, just remember like who surrounds you.
Hmm.
So for me, that was like, if I could pinpoint one set of verses, that is it. That was like a mantra that I had to keep telling myself over and over again. Because I was like, I was a Job's wife. I was like, curse God and die. Like, this is enough. Like, I've had enough, God. Like, I don't even know if you care. I don't even know if you exist in the way that I thought you did. Like, I never doubted there was a creator, but I was
Hmm.
like, maybe he's not who he says he is in the Bible. Like, maybe that's not the real God we're dealing with here, because I'm not witnessing that happening in my life, um, in my very narrow minded way in that moment. Um, yeah. And so like that was also a verse of Job's response. I was like, God gives, he takes away. That's completely his prerogative to do as he wills. But the important aspect being that he does all of that in love. That's not a vindictive thing that he does. And I think that's kind of where I got lost. It felt vindictive because I could think of all the reasons why God would want to punish me. Like I'm not perfect, and I know that deeply. Um, so yeah, I was yeah. Those are the verses that I still try to visualize that in every aspect of life. Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap things up here today, what would
Hmm.
you say? What would you say to others who are going through some similar struggles? So, I mean, there are could be others who are in the same scenario who are apart in a marriage, for whatever particular kind of visa reasons. But I think your story is unique, definitely. I don't think there's many people who've had say that they've gone through something like that, but there are others who have similar struggles in terms of what I would call like unanswered prayers, where you're waiting for God to answer you for whatever that you are struggling with, whatever you are dealing with. And so, what would you tell someone who is going through something? They feel like God is being unfair to them. They are praying to God. They feel like they have the faith of a mustard seed, but yet, for whatever reason, God is just not answering the prayer on their timeline.
For me, when I was going through all this, and I'm still going through it in a lot of ways, I would often turn to the example of Job, uh, and think, oh, like the Lord gives, He takes away, and just trying to remind myself that ultimately it's His prerogative to give or take away. Like it's not up to me to decide what I deserve or don't deserve. Um, but more often than not, I was more like Job's wife, saying, "Curse God and die." Like, what's even the point? Is He even real? Does He even care? Um, Kind of like a petulant child in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I had to do a lot of work in acknowledging God's work in me and seeing past my pain. So Job 5, verse 17 and 18
Right.
are pretty powerful for me. It says, "Behold, blessed is the one whom God reproves. Therefore despise not the discipline of the Almighty. For He wounds, but He binds up. He shatters, but His hands heal." So, like, everything that we're going through, sometimes you just feel shattered and destroyed and can't see the point of it. It just hurts. Um, but God isn't just bringing us low or cutting off bits to make us feel pain. There's absolutely a design in mind to make us look like Christ. And so for me, I could see myself as being like at the beginning like this pretty good looking bush, but inside pretty empty, like there was no substance. So when God cut me back, cut out, like pruned me, pruned the outside branches, it revealed a pretty ugly looking inside that hadn't really developed. It was just bare branches in there. And I think that was for me the point, is for God to show me how much work I actually needed to do, so that when hard times did come, I had substance instead of just this weak facade of belief that I thought was real. I thought it was strong. But the truth is, as soon as I was challenged,
Yeah.
I crumbled. So, yeah, if I was to say anything to anybody, to encourage anyone, is just remember that whatever pain you're going through right now, whatever confusing, frustrating situation you're in, um, it's very likely, guaranteed, in fact, that God is in that moment with you and He's watching it and He's part of it. He's designed this challenge for you specifically because He loves you personally. He knows you personally. He knows where you need to grow. So while He's allowing this pain in your life, He's going to bind it up. And even though He's letting things fall apart all around you, or so it seems, He's going to
Yeah.
heal and build up all of those things. So it's just our job to keep the faith, to trust Him, because He is the ultimate potter, and He has this beautiful design in mind. And it's not our job to fight Him. It's our job to melt into His hands and allow Him to do that work that He's very, very good at.
I heard a quote recently that, and I think it relates here, that we tend to try to like put ourselves like, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a believer, fill in sort of like who we are as
Mm-hmm.
humans. And when those get all taken away, like if in your case, you're not a wife in terms of like your husband not being
Mm-hmm.
there, your husband can't be a father because he's not there in person. Like, so who are
Mm-hmm.
we really? If all those things are stripped away, who are we as a human being? And I think it relates to what your counselor has said, that at the end of the day, no matter what we're going through, no matter who we are, we are worthy of God's love by being a human, by being here on the
Mm.
earth. And some people get to experience that in many different ways and many different struggles and
Mm.
challenges. And we had a very unique challenge. And we also don't know what might be challenged in the
Mm-hmm.
future. And what we go through earlier may also help us in the future. And so I also just want to thank you for your complete honesty and being open to share this with others. As you said, you kind of open up the box, and sometimes we tend to push these things down, and it's helpful for anyone who's going through something. And so I want to thank you so much for joining me today and sharing this story,
Thanks for
Stephanie.
having me. I appreciate it.